Okay, so I get this question a lot, and basically the question is, how much snow am I going to get? When is the snow going to happen? And I'll show you there's a really great website out there called windy.com. It's free. You can pay for the premium, which adds extra services to it, but it works extraordinarily well for just kind of visualizing the weather. They have an app for this, and you also can get it on any browser. So if you type in www.windy.com, it will bring up a map like this. And what you want to do is you just want to type in your hometown. So I'll go with Rentham, Mass, for instance, okay? And you pick Rentham from the picker here. Rentham is in Norfolk County, okay? And it starts bringing up information. While you're looking at this, you're like, geez, what is this really telling me? Well, this map right here is talking about the wind, but we'll get into something a little bit more in depth here in a second. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see that you have the forecast that comes up here. And if you have the premium edition, for instance, you can click on this button in the bottom left-hand side, and it will give you hour by hour. So if you want to know where its precipitation is going to start by hour, this will tell you that hour by hour with this little slider right here. Most people don't have the premium edition, so they see it in 3-hour increments. Or is it 3? Yeah, it's 3 hours in increments. And you can see here the snow is starting around 22, which is 10 o'clock at night. Now, what this is doing is that it's looking at a model, and the models are here at the bottom. This one's called the ECMWF, or known as the European model, and it's one of the better models that are out there. The GFS is a model that is created by the National Weather Service, and it's US based, and it's been updated in the last couple of years, so it's a decent model as well. Meteo Blue is a model that basically the windy people are trying to put together to give you information based off of weather stations and things like that. And then the NAM is what is known as a high resolution model, and its sweet spot is the first about 48 hours or so. After that, it switches itself from the NAM, you'll see here on the left side, to the GFS, because it only looks at a certain period of time. I think it's 60 hours in total. So, here's a basic forecast. You also can get a deeper forecast by clicking on this thing called Meteogram. And if you click on this here, you can see on the left-hand side, here's temperature, dew point, wind, wind gusts. Some of this other stuff is more for people who are more in the science of meteorology than anything else. But you can see how the weather changes and what the weather is going to be. All right, that's a very quick look, and you can see what's going on here. When you look at the basic view, for instance, one thing you can do is see here at the bottom, looking at the basic view, I'll put it on the European model. That's how much is going to fall in that period of 3 hours. So here is 0.3 inches, another 2 inches, here's 4 inches. So you can see during the overnight, for instance, that's where the intense snow is going to happen for Rentham. So if you want to see a little bit more in depth and see down to the specifics, what I recommend you do is you click on the X here, and then there's these layers on the side. And if you click on more layers, you're going to see one here in this instance for snow. There's a snowstorm coming up here in the next 24 hours. You click on new snow, and then what I like to do is I like to scroll out just a little bit. And you can see this little marker here, and it says 0 inches, but there's a couple things. One, down here at the bottom, what model you're choosing. This is the European that we're on. And here, when it's going to happen. Let's look at this in the next 24 hours. You can see it's starting to move its way up, so on Thursday night it's going to come in. Here's what's going to happen in the next 3 days. And you can see for Rentham, it's down to 13.9 on this particular model. If I switch it to the GFS, and look at 3 days, it says it's going to be 10.8 inches. And if I look at the NAM, all of a sudden it goes to 0. And you're like, why 0? Well, you have to give it a time. So I'm just going to say in the next 60 hours. And this one says 15.3. So you're saying, boy, there's a little bit of a variation here. It's like 5 inches of precipitation. Well, that happens with models. They're not perfect. But generally what you want to do is you want to be looking at trends before the storm happens, and you'll see which models are kind of in line and which ones are not. The NAM's been a little bit high for the last couple of days. One thing I want to show you here is something very, very specific about this. If you scroll in on the website itself, like we're scrolling in here in Wrentham, you can see there's Lake Pearl and Lake Archer. And between Lake Pearl and Lake Archer, excuse me, not between them, but over here is King Philip High School, okay? You can get right to King Philip High School. For instance, so if you know a place, so it's saying 15.3 for the NAM, and if I go to the European and move it out for 3 days, 13.9, and if I go to the GFS, you can see 11.2. So based off of this, it looks like that this storm is going to be about anywhere between 10 and 12 inches for Wrentham, Massachusetts. And if you want to see another point, like for instance, if you're traveling, you just take the pin and you move it. So if you're going to Worcester, for instance, you're going to see, well, there's 9.3 here. So what's happening, if you ever wonder how like a meteorologist comes up with these snowfall maps, is basically the models is telling them what's happening in particular areas. And if you look through here, so like here's the 7-inch line, so I could draw a line right here and say, oh, well, this is going to be over 8 to the south and less than 8 to the north. And you can kind of see this in the coloration that they have here as well. And then up here, as I move it more towards Concord, New Hampshire, you can see 5 inches on the GFS, and if I go to the European 4, so there's another line here. So this south of Concord into like north of Lowell, it looks like this is going to be where the 8-inch line is. Here above Concord, New Hampshire is going to probably be anywhere between 2 and 4 inches. And then if I move it a little bit further north, you can see that it's getting less and less as we're going there. So this is probably like 1 to 3 or something of that particular nature. And it's all based off of the storm itself. You can see how the storm is progressing. Now this is where you need a little bit of meteorology background to understand this, but if you click on rain and thunder on here, and these are called isobars here, I'm going to click out of here, is that if you come backwards and you look at the model that you want, so I have the European model chosen, and what I have is the pressure lines that are on here, so you can see the storm itself, and these particles are the wind that's moving around the particular systems. If I run the model by clicking on the button here on the left hand side, you'll see here's the low pressure that's moving up the coastline, and that's what's going to affect us, and or affect New England in this particular case. So you can see it's moving through North Carolina, and it's showing you the time that it's moving through here, and the time is using military time and East Coast time, but you can also set that up under these 3 little dashes here on the upper left hand side. But if you look at the storm itself, I'm going to stop it here in just a moment. It's moving off the Jersey coast, and as it moves off the Jersey coast, it's getting a little bit stronger, and then I'm going to stop it right about here, which is 4 a.m. on Thursday morning. If I look at this low where it's centered right here, and I look on it on the GFS, okay, almost the same spot there at 4 a.m. And if I look at the NAM, by clicking on that, all 3 models are in agreement that it's going to be in the same place. And based off of this, because cold air is up in the north and warm air is coming around here, you could see where the Cape might be getting a little bit of rain here, and then you can see the snow that's coming in if I zoom into that. Okay, this model's keeping snow on the Cape. If I look at the European and click on this, it's keeping snow all the way down to the islands, and the GFS is doing the same thing. And as one of my friends said about this particular storm, this storm is a storm of 50 miles. If this storm actually is 50 miles more to the north, it's going to bring rain into this area instead of snow. If this low is 50 miles to the south, it's going to pull the heavier precipitation down here, and you can see heavier snow here, much lighter snow here, and no rain at all. And that's the problem is that the models give us an idea where this storm system is going to be, but it's not necessarily a guarantee of where the storm system is going to be. And that's, kind of what makes meteorology. And so when you're looking at this, remember that a machine is putting this together, and that there's a lot of humans that are doing their analysis. So if you look at some of the websites around New England, like weatherblast.com, who's done by Mark Rosenthal, Mark is doing an analysis on this, and he's looking at these models and seeing whether or not the machines really understand what's going on. So just kind of pay attention to that. But this is windy.com. Again, there's an app for it. It's free. It's a wonderful app. And you can see there's so many other things that you can get off of this: thunderstorm information, wind information, if you're a sailor or anything like that. The information is right here. So if you ever want to know how much it's going to snow in your area, windy.com is the way to go.